Check Podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Chamber Chats, coming to you as always from here in the podcasting studios in the Czech Media Group Center. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I live and work in the ancestral lands of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, who have been the stewards of this land for millennia. And all of this is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union, who are redefining what banking can do for people, for community, and for the world. And as for what we're doing for the world in the last few versions of Chamber Chats, we've talked about things like operations to sustain the oceans, to make sure that we keep taking care of the oceans, to steward them, to keep them clean, to make them cleaner. We've talked about food security recently. We've talked about the disruptions in the economy and in investing and in money that are caused by the impact of climate change on the life that we live. We want to talk more about that today with an organization that sort of pioneered this messaging in this area. Since 2008, Synergy Enterprise has been in place doing things to help us all better understand how we can be kinder to this planet on which we live. Jill Doucette is joining us. She is the founder and CEO of Synergy Enterprises. Jill, how are you?
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me, Bruce.
Thanks for being here. And Georgia Lavender is here as well. She's the Director of Program Operations for the Synergy Foundation. Hey, Georgia, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks for having us here.
You bet. Okay, Jill, I'm going to start with you. We do this quite often with people on this program. So you meet somebody for the first time and they say to you, Synergy Enterprise, what is that? Tell me what that is. What's your answer to that?
I would say that Synergy Enterprises is a company that focuses on decarbonizing industries. So we work with companies in a variety of sectors, helping them decarbonize their operations. And locally, we also, around 11 years ago, started the Synergy Foundation, which focuses on programming primarily in BC to catalyze the green economy.
Yeah, so Georgia, I'll come back to you on the same thing. Somebody says to you, the Synergy Foundation. Jill kind of explained it, but what's your answer to that? What is the Synergy Foundation?
Yeah, so at the foundation, we're really looking at how can we support our local economies and local businesses in that transition to a green economy. So we've primarily focused our efforts at the foundation in working with those small and medium-sized enterprises and ensuring that they have the same opportunity to be brought along in that climate transition journey.
We hear conversations sometimes with people saying that a lot of this isn't real. They think that maybe this whole idea of the condition the planet's in, it's too late to make a change, too. Jill, what do you say to those people who think it's too late?
I was in a conversation recently with a climatologist who studies these things, including tipping points and iceberg melting rates. And when you look at that data, it's very alarming. And I don't blame people for having the reaction of like, well, have we gone too far here? But I think it's akin to if your house becomes a mess, or you're like, well, burn it down, start over, hit realtor.ca. Like, the key is really to find that entry point to start. And with the volume of innovation happening right now and the pace of transition actually towards climate action and a circular economy, the space that we work in every day is just absolutely full of hope and excitement and so much work to be done. So I'm really we're I guess in a place of privilege where we're seeing the rapid pace of change that's happening, and I think those stories aren't really shared enough. So we try to do that ourselves and share some of these stories because we're seeing some really hopeful signs. And I think everyone can play a part, and the more we do, and the more we support that innovation, the faster the transition is going to happen.
Yeah, I want to loop back and talk more about that circular economy thing and unpack that a little bit. Georgia, what do you say to people who say, "There's nothing I can do, it's somebody else's, somebody else will take care of it. Somebody else will fix this for us." What's your answer to that?
I think we all have a responsibility and a role to play in this. And why not? Why not take action? Why not do something? Every action, and whether you're an individual or a business or your role is within government, every action that we can take towards this climate transition and really supporting our individuals, our communities, and our businesses in this transition, it's going to benefit all of us. And it's also for those businesses, it's good for business too. So, we were talking earlier about the economics of it. Can we look at some of the economic sides of climate this transition as well? So considering that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the chamber point of view on this, too, that yes, it's the right thing to do for the planet. We need to do this, but there is huge economic benefit. There's a lot of, in plain language, there's a lot of money to be made doing this stuff to clean up the mess that we've created here. So we'll keep that in mind, too. Okay, let's go back to the circular economy now, Jill. Tell me what that is.
economy is something that the foundation has really started working on about 7 years ago. And we are really inspired by, and this leans into what we're already talking about, how the circular economy can really support the trifecta. So you can address issues associated with climate change and the environment. You can create new jobs and advance industry and support social equity in a number of ways. So the circular economy is really about redesigning our economy and eliminating waste through circularized processes. So that can look at it really looks at the value of different waste streams. And by circularizing them, by creating new value, you're able to have these tremendous economic, environmental, and social benefits. We can get into some more examples, but that's really what attracted us to look at the circular economy. And Georgia, actually, on the call, is certainly more of an expert. So I would pass the baton to her to answer that question in more detail.
Yeah. Okay, Georgia, over to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you said that very eloquently, Jill, in terms of the circular economy really being that trifecta. I think what I am really excited about by the circular economy is we're able to identify, as you said, where are we leaving money on the table? We are putting a lot of money in our landfill. We're losing out on these opportunities for resources to be remanufactured, to be recaptured and reused in our systems, and sort of, decouple our reliance on economic growth and virgin resource consumption. So I think there's so much innovation in this space, opportunity in this space, and we're seeing it become more commonplace. When we started working in the circular economy space back in 2018, we called our programming Project Zero because nobody really knew what the circular economy meant, and we were, faced with a lot of puzzled looks when we started talking about the circular economy. But now it's, really common topic of discussion amongst businesses because they see that business resiliency component to it, the ability to support the local economy. We see it coming up in local government and provincial and federal government strategies, and really working on it at industry association levels. So it's really been gaining a lot of traction. I think people are really starting to see the benefits of the circular economy and the way that it can both positively impact our environment, our business activities, and our local resiliency as well.
Amanda and I have occasion to go to the Heartland landfill. Actually, we take things there for recycling that the regular pickup won't take. So we take it. But when you, and if you've never been, just if you're watching or listening to this now, tell me this. If you've never been to the Heartland site, you should go and see how much stuff is dumped there. I mean, the stuff for recycling is one thing, but the stuff that just goes into garbage that people don't know what else to do with, that's an issue. That's a problem. So there's your challenge. Go to the Heartland landfill site. Another thing we want to talk about here is what we can be doing in our own backyard, in our own kitchen, in our own homes. We'll talk about that next. We're talking today with the people from the Synergy Enterprises and from Synergy Foundation. Jill Doucette is the founder and CEO of Synergy, and Georgia Lavender is the director of program operations for the foundation. Okay, Georgia, I'm going to start with you here. What can we be doing more of every day when people think, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm not a part of this. What are some of the little basic things you can do around your house to be a part of the solution here?
Think, really coming back to those simple actions, like you said, looking at your waste at home and what can you be, can you be composting more, recycling? But before that, really asking yourself before you make your purchasing decision, do I need this? Does it add value to my life? So before we're even creating the waste in the first place, considering what kind of value it's going to add to your life, how long it's going to last, and is it something that you can repair or reuse? And really trying to start with those principles first so that you're going to have less waste to deal with in your home as well.
I'll go back to the Heartland story again. You see people taking stuff there, and you want to shout at them, take it to Habitat for Humanity, give it to the Salvation Army, give it to women in need, do something like that. There's all these, but anyway, that's a lifestyle thing. Jill, let's go back now and talk about things on a retail or a business basis. Our economy is based on small and medium-sized enterprise. People that operate an office or a small operation. What can be done in workplaces to be a part of the solution?
In workplaces as well, I think there's actually quite a bit that any business can do. And we run a program called BC Green Business that actually works with offices, retail businesses, restaurants, grocery stores, breweries, all types of businesses, and gives them a really solid checklist with a breakdown of what businesses can do. And the actions list usually have between 40 to 60 actions. A plug, these are all available. All these checklists are available online at bcgreenbusiness.ca. Some of the actions on that list, for example, are putting in a sorting system for waste in the business and even looking outside of the traditional waste management streams and finding some alternatives for some of those hard to recycle items. An example in a restaurants could be wine corks, which might normally go in the garbage. There's a recycling program for those locally where wine corks can be turned into new products such as footwear. So lots of really innovative stuff that businesses can do. And just sticking on the topic of waste for a moment, I think both what homes and businesses can do is take a little bit of time to find those resources. There are great repair centers such as Base Camp Repairs, which repairs camping gear, tents, jackets, technical wear, instead of you having to buy something new, for example. Victoria is really a hotbed of innovation in this space, and so supporting these businesses and nonprofits that are trying to keep waste out of the landfill will just help make that the norm in our community.
Yeah, we've been sort of a throwaway economy and a throwaway lifestyle for a long time. I'm going to stay with you for a second, Jill. You will go into workplaces, though, and do an assessment on how things are because the chamber has done that. I think we do it every couple of years or every year at least. So we get a checklist from you guys as to what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Tell me about that program.
Right. So, with those assessments through BC Green Business, businesses get a annual site visit, and from that site visit, they get a list of actions that they can do, really practical things that they can do, from changing some lighting settings to looking at the heating system to paper purchasing, single-use plastics, lots of really specific things that the business can do. And at the end, the business gets a report that says this is your total score in terms of the checklist and your rating. You get certified, but you also get a sense of what your environmental metrics are. So from those actions you've done, what are the results? And that's a really good motivator. It's something that can be shared with staff. It can be something that's shared on the website, and just a great way to help businesses take those practical steps.
A couple of interesting organizations around town here who have been on this podcast in the past. Organizations that deal with used vehicle tires, rubber tires, that deal with used motor oil. The conversations are in place now about car batteries and what we're going to do with them. Georgia, I'm going to come to you with this question. We've seen some very bad things done historically with tires and oil, but we have an electric car, but that battery at some point will come to end of life. What can we start to plan on doing with those kinds of resources that we don't necessarily use anymore?
There are services in BC for recycling those materials. A lot of it's happening out in Trail BC and Tech Metal Alley. And so we do have resources to actually, or the ability to recapture those resources in our economy right now in BC. And there's been some great funding, even from the province, with the Clean BC Plastics Action Fund, that has gone towards organizations that are working on recycling these materials. Even that, we think of the battery itself, but also the outside casing from our cars with the plastic around it, that needs to be dealt with and recycled. So there is a lot of these innovative projects that are already happening here in the province to support that.
Because when a battery for a vehicle, for example, is deemed to be end of life, there's still energy left in it. There's still power in that battery that could be extracted and used for something else. There's a company in town working on that. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what we want to take a look at next is the things that we can, of course, do on our own, but there are some specific industries that have a very high profile in this region. I want to talk next about how you work with them. We're speaking today with the folks from Synergy Enterprise. Jill Doucette is the founder and CEO, and Georgia Lavender is the director of program operations for the Synergy Foundation. So, we are an ocean community. We are a shoreline community. We're a marine economy here that's going on. Georgia, I'll start with you on this one. There's a lot of things going on the marine front so that we can better protect our oceans. Tell me about some of the work that you do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So through the foundation, we've been working with entrepreneurs that are operating within the circular economy. We help them go from an ideation to launch stage and develop their businesses that contribute to the circular economy. And we've worked with a number of businesses in the marine and aquaculture space. Maybe I'll share two examples of businesses that we've supported just to give you an idea of different innovations that are happening here. And I think Jill might be able to share some more on the decarbonization side of things. But looking at the circular economy side, One business we've worked with, and you might be familiar with them here in town, is Salt Legacy, and they actually work to take the old sailcloth from sailboats. It's a thick nylon material, traditionally just destined for landfill. There's really no other use for it, and they upcycle it into adventure bags and keep that material as well as the story of the sail in circulation and really kind of connecting the consumer to the good. And then you have companies like Sea Cork Acoustics, which is a new innovation. They graduated from our program last year, and they are making acoustic paneling out of seaweed. And it's locally harvested seaweed. And this acoustic paneling can be used in office spaces and other high traffic areas. And it is completely biodegradable. So when it's at the end of the life, it can just be blended up and remixed into new acoustic paneling. So those are a few examples on the circular side.
Yeah, you mentioned decarbonizing as Jill, you did earlier on. Can you put that in a really simple? Decarbonizing is what?
Reducing the emissions of a business's operation and supply chain.
Okay, good answer right there. So let's talk a little bit about tourism right now. Huge part of our economy. We are a tourist economy here. Tourism, though, involves a lot of travel. And I know that aviation and other motor coach and ferries are all moving towards decarbonizing themselves quite rapidly. So that those, it's to me, it's very optimistic to say that those guys get it. They understand, don't they?
Yes, I would say so. I think, the big challenge is, of course, technology and clean fuel availability. However, having these net zero commitments from industries gives enough market signal that there will be market demand, which allows the supply side and the innovation side to invest and do that work. So there is this dynamic happening where there's enough commitments from major airlines, from major shipping companies that say, if this technology is available, or if this fuel supply is available, such as like a renewable diesel product, we will buy it. Those commitments is what the market has been needing to make those big investments. And now we're seeing that catch up. So we're really in the middle of a really big wave of change. Um, and that's across all of those major transportation sectors.
Yeah, there's actually one of these podcasts with Elizabeth Brown, who is the CEO of the airport, Victoria Airport Authority, talking about all those things that they're doing in that sense. So, as people are watching and listening to this right now, George, I'll go back to you, and they're thinking to themselves, I want to get some of that. I want to be a part of what they're doing at Synergy. How can we get involved with you?
Absolutely. There's a lot of different ways to get involved with the work we're doing here at Synergy Foundation. So Jill talked about our BC Green Business Program for SMEs, and that's that annual certification program. That's a great way to get engaged. Whether you are a business or you're a consumer, and a really big way that we can make an impact is where we spend our money. And so by supporting those businesses that have that commitment to sustainability and are actively working on it is a great thing that we can do as consumers. So on our BC Green Business website, we have a directory of all of the different businesses and organizations from grocery stores, spas, retailers on our website. So for on the consumer side, you could look at that. We also have our circular economy programming. So if there's any entrepreneurs that are listening to this and they want to start up their own business and they have a great idea that contributes to the circular economy, we need more solutions and we need more innovations. So we have our incubator program that really helps train entrepreneurs go from ideation to launch over an 8-month period. So keep an eye out for that program. And then on our circular side, for those larger businesses and traditional economic sectors that are like, how do I incorporate circular economy into my business? Where do I start? What does this mean? We launched a new program. It's our Circular Accelerator program. And so it actually helps a business measure their current level of circularity based on what they're doing in their operations and provides them with a 5-year action plan to help them increase their operational efficiencies, find new opportunities to attract investment, reduce their operating costs, and ultimately positively impact their environmental footprint.
I mean, if you stop and think about it, if you are starting a business right now, why wouldn't you start it in this fashion? Because if you don't, you're going to have to switch it all around anyway, and that's going to cost you time, money, and productivity. So, yeah. So, Jill, we know what you're doing now. We've talked a little about where you've come from, but tell me about what sort of progression has happened. What's been the advancement from day one to now? What have been the growth pieces for you?
On the climate action side within business, it's certainly been night and day. I mean, I started Synergy Enterprises in 2008, so you can imagine how many people were clamoring to work with us in a recession at that point. To now, where we had very little interest in the beginning. There's a lot of skepticism around whether climate action even had a role in business at all. That was really the rhetoric. Now it's seen as a business imperative, and the question really is about how and how fast. So, definitely a major tone change. And as Georgia said on the foundation side, it's been so incredible. I mean, these last 3 years, we just did our reflection on our last 3 year strategic plan at the foundation, and all of our programs have doubled in size in terms of the number of businesses involved, and we've moved all our programs province wide. So that's been just tremendous to see that growth, the interest in the circular economy. Um, so it's just going to be continuing that path moving forward and looking at ways that we can bring our programs to new markets and just deepen our impact here on Vancouver Island.
Yeah, so we've come to this point. This is where you're at now. So, Georgia, what's next for the Synergy Foundation? Where are you going? Where are you headed?
Well, we're really looking at how can we continue to support all the businesses across BC in the transition to a green economy. So continuing to engage new regions with our BC Green Business Program, support more entrepreneurs in the circular economy, and really looking at what is it next that businesses need? What's the next support that they're going to need to support this transition? So continually moving forward and adapting with the innovations that are coming up in the marketplace.
This is all very important work, of course, in every element of what you do and all the different platforms and sectors in which you operate, and you're expanding province wide, as you said. How is all of this paid for, Jill? What's the funding model for Synergy?
On the enterprises side, we work for the private sector, so they are clients of ours, or we work with industry associations and roll out programs for a whole sector, which is really fun. On the foundation side, we have a number of different supports for that. We've had a great partnership with Van City Credit Union, who has always been very supportive of even our, early, what were quirky ideas maybe in the beginning, to now, which are really robust programs. So, corporate sponsors like that, as well as foundations and different government funding.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how this whole thing has evolved forward into becoming what it has. And I've actually been somewhat involved with you guys for all of that time, and it's been quite exhilarating, really. Tell me what we find on your website, Jill.
Well, through the Synergy Foundation website, you can find access to all of the programs that we talked about, which includes the EcoStar Awards Gala, which we host every year and is always a great event. But also the programs such as the Project Zero programs, which are our circular economy ones, as well as BC Green Business. So that's a great way to find out about some of our work locally. And then on synergyenterprises.ca, you can find out about some of our work in the decarbonization space in Canada and around the world.
It's amazing stuff that you're doing and have been doing and will be doing. Thank you both for your time and being here today. Georgia Lavender is the Director of Program Operations for the Synergy Foundation, and Jill Doucette started this whole thing. She is the founder and CEO of Synergy Enterprises. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Yes, Bruce.
You bet. I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.